Can you actually recall a time when you didn't know a Beatles song?
Ha, probably not.
For most of us, I think
Yeah,
their music feels like it's just always been there, kind of woven into the fabric of our lives.
absolutely.
They weren't just a band, were they? They were, well, a global phenomenon. Arguably the most influential group in Western popular music history.
It's true. Their influence, as one source puts it rather well, encompassed all of Western culture.
Wow.
Yeah, and they radically transformed the sound and significance of rock and roll. It's genuinely hard to overstate their impact.
And today we're taking a deep dive into that incredible journey. We're going to unpack the story of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr.
Mm-hmm.
From the early struggles back in Liverpool all the way to international superstardom, their revolutionary musical innovations.
The cultural impact.
Right, the profound cultural impact, the factors leading to their breakup, which is always fascinating,
Oh.
and their enduring legacy, including how, new generations of fans are still engaging with their history today.
And we've pulled together quite a stack of fascinating sources for this. We've got detailed Wikipedia entries on the breakup and their cultural impact, a comprehensive biography,
Okay.
a documentary transcript, the anthology, I believe an academic analysis of their musical evolution from Liverpool University Press,
Oh, interesting.
and even some insights into modern fan culture. So our mission, really, is to extract the most important bits of knowledge, maybe some surprising insights, just to help understand why the Beatles remain so relevant.
Decades later, yeah. Okay, so let's dive right in, right at the very beginning, back in Liverpool.
Right.
Now, most people know the Beatles officially formed in 1960, but what's often overlooked is just how, well, tumultuous their early lineup was,
Mm-hmm.
especially with drummers, right? Before that iconic core of John, Paul, George, and Ringo finally clicked in 1962.
That's a great point, and it really highlights the persistence required. There's
Right.
there's an anecdote from Paul McCartney himself, recalled in the anthology doc,
Oh, yeah.
about how he even had to fill in on drums for one gig.
No way. Paula drum.
Yeah, apparently playing at a strip club in Upper Parliament Street
Get out.
with quite an unconventional audience, as you can imagine. It really paints a picture of those gritty, maybe less glamorous beginnings.
What a detail. That really puts things in perspective. And of course, Pete Best was their official drummer for a time.
Right, until 62.
But ultimately, Richard Starkey, Ringo Starr, as we know him, replaced him. And that lineup change, it seems like such a pivotal moment.
It truly was, and a major reason for that turning point, you have to say, was their manager, Brian Epstein.
Epstein. Crucial.
Absolutely crucial. He secured their first contract with EMI in 1962. And that deal, well, by today's standards, it sounds almost unbelievable.
Yeah, I saw that detail about the contract. The business side is quite telling, isn't it?
It really is.
They were paid a royalty rate of just 1 penny per record sold
One old penny.
on 85% of UK sales, and half that for overseas.
And nothing on the other 15% for returns and demos.
It's an incredibly stark contrast to the kind of wealth they achieved later.
Mm.
Really highlights the vulnerability of artists back then, even
Yeah.
ones destined for, superstardom.
Makes you realize how vital Epstein's belief in them must have been.
Definitely. But despite those terms, they started breaking through pretty quickly in the UK, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Their first single, Love Me Do, it peaked at number 17. Okay, not bad.
Okay.
But then their second single, Please Please Me, that was the real breakthrough. #1 on nearly every UK chart.
And then She Loves You, August 63. That became the fastest selling record in the UK at the time.
Yeah, 750,000 copies in under 4 weeks. Just phenomenal.
Wow.
And that kicked off an almost unbroken string of 17 British #1 singles.
17. But this early magnetism, it wasn't just the music, was it? Their image played a huge part.
Absolutely central. They got dubbed the Mop Tops, didn't they, by some tabloids?
They can't.
Because of their mid-length hair. Widely mocked by adults, apparently.
Yeah, I bet.
But for youth culture, it instantly became this emblem of rebellion. And interestingly, some authors noted, Aaron Reith, Hess, and Jacobs, they argued these haircuts signaled a kind of less threatening male sexuality to teenage girls,
Interesting take.
while their suits made them seem less sleazy than maybe Elvis to the middle-class white audiences. It was a clever combination.
That's a powerful point about the image. So, okay, they're huge in the UK, then comes the American invasion.
Yeah.
And it's kind of wild to think that Capitol Records, their US label, initially just wasn't interested.
It is, isn't it? The success for I Want to Hold Your Hand in America only really started after a DJ in Washington, D.C. played a British copy he'd gotten hold of.
Just one DJ.
Yeah, mid-December 63. That apparently sparked 1 million sales by mid-January.
Incredible. And then, the big one. The Ed Sullivan Show, February 64.
Legendary.
Can you even imagine the impact? Watched by an estimated 73 million viewers.
73 million.
That's like 34% of the entire American population at the time.
It was the largest audience ever recorded for an American TV program then. It just unleashed Beatlemania full force in the U.S.
And from there, global stardom was pretty much undeniable. The early films helped, too.
Oh, yeah, significantly. A Hard Day's Night in 64 was groundbreaking. They were the first pop act since Buddy Holly, I think,
Right.
to release an album of entirely original songs that really endeared them to British intellectuals who started seeing them as more than just teen idols.
And then Help in 65 gave us Yesterday,
Ah, Yesterday.
which is just Paul, isn't it? And it's become the most covered song ever written.
Still is, I believe.
And Help also made them the first rock group nominated for a Grammy for Album of the Year.
Quite a feat back then.
But while Help was this huge peak in 65, the year before 64, had that other kind of pivotal moment you mentioned, the Dylan meeting.
Right. August 64, in their New York hotel suite, Dylan famously introduced them to cannabis.
Which seems almost like a cliche now, but back then.
It was huge, culturally huge, because it blurred the lines between Dylan's more, intellectual folk audience and the Beatles' massive teeny bopper fan base.
Ah.
And it led to this convergence of folk and rock audiences. Within about a year, those distinctions had almost evaporated. Fan bases started merging, evolving.
So this is where the story takes that really fascinating turn, isn't it? Because after 1966, the Beatles just stopped touring.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah. A massive decision.
And it wasn't just a break, it marked this profound shift. The band fully embraced this increasingly experimental approach, turning the studio into their main creative space, maybe even a refuge from all the pressure.
Exactly, a refuge. And you can actually see this shift in the numbers quantitatively.
How so?
Well, the average number of days spent recording a song just dramatically increased after 65. Before that, most songs were basically started and finished on the same day, average under, say, 1.5 days.
Wow, that quick.
Yeah, but from 66 to 70, that jumped to between 2.5 and 4 days to song.
Quite a difference.
And Screet Pepper. Well, that famously took over 700 hours to record.
700 hours.
Yeah. This wasn't just, a change in process. It was a fundamental shift in how music was made. The album itself became the art form, moving beyond just capturing a live performance.
Right.
And that intense studio focus, it really laid the groundwork for countless bands later who saw the studio as their primary instrument. Changed the sound of pop music forever, really.
It makes you wonder, though, the dedication, the collaboration it must have taken to produce In Screet Pepper under those conditions.
Totally.
Especially with the technology they had. Pretty primitive 4-track machines, right?
Exactly. And they were doing crazy stuff, sticking microphones right down the bells of brass instruments, turning headphones into microphones, taped to violins, messing with tape speeds, using oscillators, chopping up tapes, rearranging them.
Just total pioneers.
In every sense. And their musical evolution was just astounding alongside that. Post-65, you see this huge diversification of instruments.
Beyond the usual guitars, bass, drums setup.
Way beyond. The string quartet on Yesterday in 65 was a big breakthrough moment.
Right.
And later tracks had horns, woodwind. It dramatically expanded their whole sound palette.
And George Harrison, his use of that Rickenbacker 12-string electric guitar.
Oh, yeah, the Ricky.
That helped popularize that distinctive jangly sound, didn't it?
Yeah.
Defined jangle pop folk rock.
It really did. And then, of course, Norwegian Wood introduces the sitar to Western pop.
The sitar.
Which sparked what Ravi Shankar himself called the Great Sitar Explosion.
Ah, love that phrase.
And it basically launched the whole raga rock subgenre.
And the genre bending didn't stop there, did it? I read something about doom metal.
Yeah. Believe it or not, Lennon's I Want You, she's so heavy, is often cited as inadvertently kind of starting doom metal and forming the foundation for stoner rock. Their influence just stretched across so many emerging genres, often without them even consciously aiming for it,
So, okay, they're reinventing their sound with new instruments, new techniques. But this experimental drive, it wasn't just about what they played, it also transformed how they wrote songs, the structure.
Absolutely. There's some quantitative analysis suggesting John Lennon's songwriting productivity actually trended down slowly over time,
Oh, interesting.
while Paul McCartney's increased, especially after '66, after they stopped touring.
And their individual styles, even when collaborating, were quite distinct.
Yeah, very much so. McCartney is often described as this natural melodist with like extrovert energy. His tunes could kind of exist on their own without the harmony.
Right.
Lennon, on the other hand, had more of a sedentary, ironic personality, is how one source put it. And his melodies were often closer to speech rhythms, maybe relying more on the harmonic backing for their interests.
And the topics of their songs changed quite a bit too, didn't they?
Drastically. Early on, it was mostly positive relationship songs. She loves you, I want to hold your hand.
Yeah.
But by '64, '65, you start seeing a trend towards more negative sentiments, maybe more realistic. And then after '65, a sudden jump in non-relationship topics, just broadening their lyrical world immensely.
And this experimentation extended to the actual structure and time signatures too.
Oh, yeah. While most pop songs stuck to a straight 44 beat, they started playing with that. Later works like A Day in the Life have these really complex multi-part structures.
Right.
And Happiness is a Warm Gun is just a masterclass in shifting time signatures. It goes from 44 to a waltz-like 34, then this soaring 64, even an uneven 74 beat.
Wow, that's complex.
It creates this really disorienting, unpredictable feel that totally matches the lyrics. And then, of course, you have Revolution 9, which famously had no time signature at all, just sound collage.
And we can't talk innovations without mentioning iconic sounds, like the opening chord of A Hard Day's Night.
Oh, that chord? Instantly recognizable.
It's legendary because it's actually quite complex, isn't it? This shimmering, almost dissonant sound that was totally new for a pop song intro signaled they were pushing boundaries right away.
Definitely. And the sustained E major chord at the very end of A Day in the Life is another one people always mention.
Right, that long fade.
That incredibly long, resonant fade that just hangs there, left listeners completely mesmerized.
And these changes, this whole creative evolution, it wasn't just in the music itself. Their album artwork, their visual identity, that underwent a radical transformation too.
Totally. It became an art form in itself, something widely imitated. You think about with the Beatles, that first LP cover.
The black and white one.
Yeah, very austere, unsmiling, monochrome. Apparently it actually alarmed EMI.
Oh, I bet.
Or Rubber Soul,
Right.
with the distorted faces. So instantly recognizable. By '65, they didn't even need the band's name on the cover.
That says a lot. Then there's Revolver.
Ah, Revolver.
Yeah.
Designed by their old friend Klaus Wormann from Hamburg. It won a Grammy, and it boldly used black and white instead of vibrant colors, really reflecting their determination to reinvent themselves again.
But the absolute game changer, artwork-wise, has to be See Cheat Pepper.
Oh, without a doubt. C.T. Pepper really initiated the acceptance of album artwork as an integral component of the whole listening experience.
Part of the package.
Exactly. And it was also the first pop album to include printed lyrics on the sleeve.
Which actually annoyed the sheet music publishers, right?
Apparently so. They lost revenue. And then, just to show they could do anything, they swung completely the other way with the Beatles, the White Album.
Minimalist.
Minimalist, plain white, individually numbered, a real nod to conceptual art, a move towards stark simplicity after the sensory overload of Pepper.
You can just imagine the faces at EMI seeing Revolver's cover or the blank white album. Where's the color, boys?
Exactly. They were constantly challenging expectations.
So beyond the music, beyond the art, they were really, as you said, orchestrators of society's developments, profoundly influencing youth, counterculture, even British identity. And the sales records? They're still staggering.
Over 600 million records sold worldwide. Still the best-selling band in history.
Just incredible numbers. And Time magazine included them in its list of the 100 most important people of the 20th century.
Which says a lot about their reach beyond just music. And their impact on other musicians is legendary.
Right, you hear stories about that Ed Sullivan performance.
Yeah, Tom Petty, The Byrds, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Joe Walsh, Nancy Wilson from Heart, Billy Joel. They all credit seeing that show as the moment they decided to pursue music.
Wow.
It literally sparked this phenomenon of garage bands forming across America, kids growing their hair long, ditching the crew cuts.
And they also inspired these intense creative rivalries, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Between themselves, but also with acts like Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones. They've been called the Holy Trinity of 1960s rock.
Pushing each other.
Constantly pushing each other to experiment, to innovate, which ultimately benefited everyone, all the listeners.
And their impact went into social commentary, too. Beatlemania itself, surprisingly, was one of the first times teenage girls could publicly express desire, disregard adult opinions.
Yeah, it was described as a kind of religion of teenage culture, a space for them.
And then you get songs like Revolution in '68.
Right. Lennon espousing pacifism.
Which sparked the first real in-depth debate about rock music and politics, didn't it? Drew criticism from the New Left.
It did, but then on the flip side, the B-side of that single, Paul McCartney's Hey Jude,
Yeah.
that was adopted as an anthem by Czech citizens during their struggle against the Soviet invasion, shows how differently their work could be interpreted.
Absolutely. And they weren't shy about controversy on other fronts either. Drug use, for instance.
Yo, definitely not. Lennon made heroin addiction the subject of Cold Turkey, which was a pop hit.
Pretty bold.
And then in 1970, U.S. Vice President Spiro Agnew actually launched this campaign against rock music, specifically citing the Beatles for brainwashing youth into drug use.
Really. Targeting specific songs.
Yeah, scrutinizing lyrics in songs like With a Little Help from My Friends, even Yellow Submarine, looking for hidden drug messages.
Wow. That really highlights that tension, doesn't it? Between the establishment and the counterculture they helped define.
Absolutely. And beyond their creative output, they even ventured into business. Apple Corps.
Right, Apple. Initially set up for tax reasons.
Yeah, sort of a tax shelter, but it grew into this conglomerate. Its main division was Apple Records.
Which has been called the first record label of any consequence started by a band.
Pretty much.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
wasn't just for their own stuff. Apple Records launched international careers for artists like Billy Preston.
Who played with them, right?
Yeah, famously on the Let It Be sessions, and James Taylor Badfinger.
And isn't there a weird connection to the Apple iPod?
Sort of an interesting footnote, the iPod is seen by some as a realization of an idea Lennon had about combining music, film, and electronics. And Apple Corps itself, its sort of artist-friendly philosophy, apparently provided some inspiration for companies like Ben & Jerry's, even Apple Computer, Inc., and Google.
That's fascinating, their influence reaching into corporate philosophy.
It's pretty wide-ranging.
So, given all this unprecedented success, this global dominance, it's almost hard to imagine it ending. What, according to the sources, were the main pressures that led to the split?
Well, it's never just one thing, is it? The sources point to this whole web of intertwined factors,
Right.
the immense crushing strain of Beatlemania itself for years. The death of Brian Epstein in '67 was huge, left a massive void.
Their anchor, gone.
Exactly. Then growing discontent with McCartney's leadership, which became more dominant after Epstein died. Lennon's heroin use and his very public, intense relationship with Yoko Ono.
Which often gets blamed, maybe unfairly.
Often unfairly simplified, yeah. But it definitely changed the group dynamic. Then you had George Harrison becoming this incredibly prolific songwriter.
Right, All Things Must Pass was waiting.
Exactly, feeling stifled because he couldn't get enough songs on Beatles albums. Add to that, Apple Corps floundering financially, becoming a source of stress.
Okay.
The infamously tense Get Back project, which became the Let It Be album and film.
That sounds like it was rough.
Oh, yeah. Lennon described those sessions as hell, the most miserable on Earth.
Ouch.
And Harrison called them the low of all time. Just intense internal tensions. Lennon wasn't in a great state. It was grim.
So grim that George actually walked out for a bit.
He did. Temporarily quit in January '69, felt totally estranged from John and Paul, stifled. He only came back after they agreed to his demands, stop all the talk about live performances, and moved the sessions out of the cold Twickenham film studios to their own warmer Apple Studios basement.
Wow. And then the final straw, managerial disputes, right? Alan Klein versus the Eastmans.
Yeah, that split them right down the middle, all against the other three. It was really the final nail.
And the official announcement, that came from Paul McCartney, April 10th, 1970. The end of an era, officially.
A day many fans still remember. So, what happened next? Each of them went off on these really fascinating solo paths.
Yeah, tell us about that, John Lennon.
Lennon released his John Lennon Plastic Ono Band album almost immediately. Incredibly raw, intense, primal scream therapy stuff.
Very different.
Very different. Followed by the more accessible anthemic Imagine. Then his move to New York City, his anti-war activism, which actually led to the Nixon administration trying to deport him.
Right, he was always outspoken. And George Harrison.
George had all this pent-up material, which exploded onto his triple album, All Things Must Pass. Huge success.
Massive, my sweet lord.
Exactly. And he organized the groundbreaking concert for Bangladesh in '71, raised $15 million for UNICEF, really set the template for future large-scale benefit concerts like Live Aid.
An incredible legacy there. But he had personal struggles, too.
Yeah, he spoke about dealing with PTSD from the sheer intensity of being a Beatle, the end of his marriage to Pattie Boyd, though he later found happiness with Olivia. He started handmade films, producing movies.
Right, like Life of Brian.
Exactly. He sadly passed away from cancer in 2001.
And Paul McCartney. What was his immediate post-Beatles period like?
Paul initially fell into a pretty deep depression after the breakup. His wife Linda was crucial in pulling him out of it.
Right.
He released his first solo album, McCartney, very homespun, then formed Wings with Linda and Denny Lane.
Wings had huge success, too.
Oh, yeah. Massive global success. Albums like Band on the Run. He's continued touring and releasing music right up to the present day, 2024. Though he also had his share of legal battles over the Lennon-McCartney song catalog ownership.
That is complex. And Ringo?
Ringo also had solo hits early on, like It Don't Come Easy, Photograph Us.
Yeah.
He struggled with alcoholism for a period.
Right?
Well, found sobriety with his wife, Barbara Bach. And then he formed his highly successful all-star band concept in 1989.
Which is still going strong.
Still touring, still releasing music as of 2024. It's really remarkable how they all found their own distinct paths after being so intertwined for so long.
It really is.
Yeah.
And beyond their individual journeys, the Beatles story itself keeps getting revisited, reinterpreted.
Definitely. The Beatles Anthology Project in 1995 was huge for that.
The books, the documentary, the albums.
Yeah, a massive multimedia project. It brought the surviving members, Paul, George, Ringo, back together, unearthed all these rare and unreleased recordings. Won a Grammy for the film, too.
And technology keeps finding new ways for us to engage with their work, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like in 2022, they released a special edition of Revolver with a brand new stereo remix.
How did they do that?
Using this AI demixing technology. It was actually developed by Peter Jackson's team for the Get Back documentary to separate instruments and voices from those old monotapes.
Wow, so the documentary tech led to remixing the albums.
Exactly. Shows how this history is constantly being re-examined through new technological lenses.
And that same AI tech led to the final Beatles record.
Right. Now and Then, released just last year, 2023, they used that AI demixing to cleanly extract John Lennon's voice from an old, slightly rough demo tape from the late 70s. And Paul and Ringo then finished the track. It actually became their first UK #1 single since 1969.
Incredible. A #1 decades later.
And it holds the distinction of being the first AI-assisted track to win a Grammy. It really highlights how technology can kind of bridge these decades of musical history.
It's also worth touching on the legal side, isn't it? The post-breakup business stuff was complex.
Oh, yeah. Complex and often contentious. Lots of disputes over royalties with EMI Capital. And famously, the long-running, 17-year legal battle between Apple Corp., the Beatles company, and Apple Computer over the use of the name Apple.
Right, I remember that.
Those ongoing legal things show the enduring business legacy, the value tied up in the name and the music long after the band itself stopped recording.
So how does all this history, the music, the tech, the business, how does it connect to modern fandom? How do young fans engage now?
Well, today's young fans are often described as cultural archaeologists.
I like that.
Yeah, they're digging into this rich past, but they're using very contemporary fan practices. Fan art, fan fiction, creating memes, engaging on social media.
Bringing modern tools to historical fandom.
Exactly. Keeping the story vibrant and relevant in their own ways.
And a really fascinating example of that is the McLennan phenomenon.
Ah, yes. Shipping Paul McCartney and John Lennon, creating fan works exploring a romantic relationship between them.
Which happens with modern celebrities, but feels different here.
It does feel different because it's a closed canon, right? Their intense collaborative history is fixed. Lennon passed away decades ago. So fans can engage with that dynamic, reinterpret it without the same kind of maybe invasiveness or real-time impact you see with shipping current living celebrities.
That makes sense. It's engaging with history and mythology.
Precisely. And what's truly remarkable is that this urge to sort of ship them, to create these transformative fan works, it was actually there right from the beginning, long before the internet.
Really? How so?
There are anecdotes from the 60s recalling early Beatle play, where teenage girls would act out scenes from interviews or films. They'd speak in Liverpudlian accents, and some would even role-play as John and Paul, exploring that dynamic. It shows that the desire to reinterpret, to reimagine their relationship was always a core part of the fandom, even back then.
That's incredible. So the impulse was always there.
Seems like it.
So as we kind of wrap up here, reflecting on the Beatles' monumental impact, musical pioneers, cultural shapers, it's clear their story isn't just history locked away in a book.
Not at all.
It feels like a constantly evolving narrative, doesn't it? Continually being reinterpreted, reimagined by new generations. It ensures that Beatlemania, in a way, continues through digital archives, AI-enhanced music, those vibrant fan communities.
It absolutely does continue, just in different forms.
Yeah.
Which leads us to maybe a final fascinating question for you, the listener, to consider. What does it truly mean for an artist's legacy like the Beatles to remain so profoundly alive, so active, even decades after their main period ended?
That's a great question.
It really invites us to think about the enduring power of great art, of creation, and maybe that fundamental human impulse we have to connect with stories, to reinterpret them, and find new meaning in the cultural touchstones that shape us.